Welcome back to Coin Enthusiast, the home of jaw-dropping discoveries and heart-pounding coin treasures. Today, we're diving deep into a world where a simple old penny can make your jaw hit the floor. We're talking about the rarest, most valuable steel wheat pennies and classic wheat pennies that have shocked collectors, auction houses, and even bank vaults. These tiny copper and steel discs have sold for tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars, and some of them may still be hiding in your old jar of change. You won't believe how high these values go, and just when you think you've seen the peak, the next coin smashes right through it. So grab your favorite seat, maybe a magnifying glass too, because one of these coins could change everything. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a treasure hunting moment. The details are barely visible. The surface looks like it's been through a war, maybe two. And yet, this battered little penny could be hiding a six-figure secret that would shock even the most seasoned collector. Because what you're looking at might just be one of the most legendary mistakes in US coin history. The 1943 S bronze Lincoln Wheat Penny. Now here's the kicker. In 1943, during the height of World War II, the US Mint made a huge change. Copper was desperately needed for the war effort, so the Mint switched to using zinc-coated steel for pennies that year. Shiny, silver-looking coins that felt almost futuristic at the time. But a tiny number of copper planchets, that's the blank discs used for coins, somehow got stuck in the machinery from the previous year. They were struck by mistake and slipped out into circulation under the radar. These rare few bronze pennies from 1943, they weren't supposed to exist, but a couple did. And one of the most valuable versions is the 1943 S, struck in San Francisco. Only a handful are known to exist, and most are long gone, lost in circulation, sitting in old jars, or corroded beyond recognition. Now, take another look at this one. It's in rough shape, heavily circulated, damaged by time. But even in this kind of condition, collectors would pay insane money just for a chance to verify it's the real thing. Because here's the part that'll knock your socks off. If this coin turns out to be a 1943 S bronze cent, its value could skyrocket to $300,000 to $500,000, even in heavily worn condition. One pristine example, it sold for $504,000 at auction, and that was in 2020. And get this, there's a rumor in the collecting world that one of these coins was once found in a children's piggy bank, corroded, almost thrown away, and turned out to be worth a fortune. Now, how do you tell if it's the real deal? Weight is the first clue. A genuine steel penny weighs about 2.7 grams, but a bronze one, around 3.1 grams. You'll also want to test it with a magnet. Steel cents stick to a magnet. Bronze ones don't. It's that simple. And that's stunning. Imagine finding this in your change jar. You see Lincoln's barely visible outline. A date, 1943. An S mint mark. You almost toss it out. But something tells you to look closer. That instinct could be worth $500,000. So don't let the condition fool you. The ugliest pennies sometimes hide the most beautiful surprises. And guess what? We're just getting started. Next up, a coin that looks even worse than this one, but could fetch nearly $400,000 because of one tiny mint error that changed everything. Before we jump ahead, quick reminder, if this is blowing your mind so far, hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on another jaw-dropping discovery. Let's keep wheat penny. Now, at first glance, it might not look like much. Just another old copper penny, right? But wait, because this little guy right here, especially in circulated condition, has a story worth tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Imagine this. It's 1940. America is still reeling from the Great Depression. World War II is brewing overseas. Pennies weren't just loose change. They mattered. Every coin held weight. And this one, it's 90% copper, made in an era when real metal was used, no shortcuts. That solid bronze tone, the classic wheat ears reverse, and of course, the iconic Abraham Lincoln profile on the front. But here's where it gets exciting. Most people toss these into jars or spent them without a second thought. But some of these 1940 pennies were struck with rare minting errors, like off-center strikes, die cracks, or even double dies on the Liberty or In God We Trust text. And in rare cases, there's a shocking repunched mint mark error, where the D or S mint mark was stamped twice by accident. Now, this coin you're looking at, worn, sure. The edges are softened, the fields show age, but the detail? Still there. Circulated or not, if it carries one of those ultra-rare mint errors, this penny jumps in value instantly. Even in average condition, this coin can fetch $1 to $25 from casual collectors. But that's just the beginning. Let's talk numbers that'll make your jaw drop. A high-grade uncirculated 1940 penny, especially with an error, has sold at auction for over $18,000. That's not hype, that's real sale data. One rare double die obverse variety, where Lincoln's face has a faint but clear shadow effect, sold for $28,500. But here comes the knockout. In 2021, a collector discovered a rare 1940 proof strike with multiple die polishing lines and a deep cameo contrast. This wasn't even known to exist in such condition. Final auction price? A staggering $156,750. Why? Rarity, scarcity, eye appeal. Serious collectors are out there, and when they want a coin bad enough, they'll pay anything. This is no longer just a coin, it's a piece of American history. And someone out there needs it to complete their $1 million collection. And here's what makes it exciting for you. That coin could be in a forgotten penny jar, an old shoebox, or tucked away in a drawer since your grandfather's time. These things hide in plain sight. So next time you see a 1940 wheat penny, don't dismiss it. Flip it over. Check the edges. Look closely at the lettering. If you spot anything unusual, any doubling, cracks, or a mint mark that looks off, you might be holding a treasure. And just think about this. A single cent, something we step over on the sidewalk, could be worth 6 figures. That's the beauty of coin hunting. That's the thrill. Now, if that didn't give you goosebumps, just wait till you see what's next. Digging. Next up is a coin that, at first glance, looks like it's been through the ringer. Worn, dull, maybe something you'd toss back into the change jar without a second thought. But if you're sharp and just a little lucky, this 1943 D wheat penny might be hiding a secret so rare it could send your heart racing. Now let me be clear, this isn't just any 1943 D, because in 1943, just like the San Francisco Mint, the Denver Mint was supposed to strike steel pennies only. That was the rule. Copper was too valuable for wartime use. But once again, a mistake happened. A few leftover bronze planchets, the copper discs used in 1942, got caught in the machinery, and somehow they made it through. Only one confirmed 1943-D bronze penny has ever been found. One, ever. So when I say rare, I don't mean rare like a baseball card or a stamp. I mean rare like this shouldn't exist. That one known coin was discovered in the 1970s, and guess what? It wasn't gleaming. It wasn't perfect. It looked just like this one, a little dirty, aged, clearly circulated. But that didn't stop it from fetching a heart-stopping price. In 2010, the only known genuine 1943 D bronze cent sold at auction for $1.7 million. Yes, $1.7 million for a penny. Just imagine one tiny coin that looks like scrap metal suddenly changing someone's life. Now, if another one were ever to turn up, even in a beat-up state like this, it could still pull in $500,000 or more, depending on condition and conformation. Even a heavily worn bronze 1943 cent without a mint mark recently hit $372,000 at auction. That's how crazy the market gets for these. Moving on to our next shocker, the 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny in fine condition. At first glance, this coin seems modest, slightly worn, some soft edges. Lincoln's cheek is smooth from years of wear, and the wheat stalks on the back are faint, but still visible. You've probably seen dozens just like it. But what if I told you this plain, worn coin could be a secret $350,000 jackpot hiding in your change jar? Let's break it down. 1950, the post-war boom was in full swing. America was racing toward the future. Television was becoming mainstream and suburbia was rising. But hidden in all that prosperity, the US Mint was quietly producing one of the most mysteriously underappreciated coins of the wheat penny era. On paper, it looks ordinary. Over 272 million were struck at the Philadelphia Mint. So how could one of these possibly be worth more than a luxury sports car? Well, here's where it gets fascinating. While most 1950 pennies were well struck, there were rare moments when die alignment issues, planchet defects, and die deterioration led to extreme and bizarre minting errors. Imagine a penny with a broad strike error, where the rim is missing and the coin spreads wider than it should. Or one with a struck-through grease error, making Lincoln's face almost ghost-like. A chilling and highly sought-after defect. But even more mind-blowing, there are a handful of 1950 wheat pennies struck on foreign planchet's. That's right, coins accidentally struck on blanks intended for Belgian or Peruvian coinage. These mix-ups were incredibly rare and incredibly valuable. One such piece, a 1950 penny struck on a silver dime planchet, sold at auction for a heart-pounding $348,000. And here's the kicker. These coins don't always look flashy. In fact, many were found in fine or very fine condition, just like the one you're seeing now. Slightly worn, slightly dull, absolutely life-changing. In fine condition, a standard 1950 wheat penny might go for $1 to $3. But if yours has one of these rare errors or odd metallic compositions, you're no longer in coffee money territory. You're looking at the kind of cash that could erase your mortgage. Even without errors, a 1950 penny in top-grade mint state red, we're talking full original luster, no spots, no wear, has been known to fetch $9,000 to $14,000 at auction. That's for a normal penny, folks. Nothing fancy, no doubling, no off-center strike, just pristine copper. Now think about this. How many 1950 pennies are sitting in dusty shoeboxes across America right now? How many are buried at the bottom of your old drawer or packed away in a forgotten piggy bank? This coin reminds us that the extraordinary often hides in the ordinary. And this is what makes coin collecting so thrilling. It's not just about shiny things. It's about history, mystery, and sometimes a wild twist of fate. We've now uncovered two coins, both seemingly simple, both with the power to completely change your day, your week, or your whole life. And we still have 3 more to go, off-metal errors. But here's the wild part. Experts believe there could be more out there. Maybe 2, 3, or even 4 still floating around in old family collections. Not everyone checks their coins. Not everyone weighs them or knows what to look for. Most folks just assume it's junk. And that is why this coin is so exciting. Now take another look. The surface is rough, scratched, and dulled down by decades of wear. But that's what makes it believable. The fake ones, too clean, too pretty. The real treasures often look like they've lived a hard life, just like this one. Want to know if yours is the real deal? Weigh it. If it's a standard steel cent, it should be 2.7 grams. If it's a bronze penny, it'll be heavier, 3.1 grams or more. Also, try the magnet test. Steel cents stick. Bronze ones don't. That simple test has led to some of the most shocking coin discoveries in US history. And who knows, this exact coin, yes, this rusty, overlooked little piece of history, could be the second known 1943 D bronze cent. If it is, its value could be life-changing. Now, before we move on to the next unbelievable find, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss what's coming. Because coin number 3, it's from the 1950s, but it's hiding a minting disaster so rare, collectors are still fighting over it. Next up, a coin that might look like it's barely holding together, but underneath that worn, beat-up surface hides one of the most misunderstood gold mines. In American numismatics, the 1952 D wheat penny. In bad condition. Now hang on, I already know what you're thinking. 1952? That's not rare, right? Exactly, that's what makes this one so dangerous and so valuable. See, the 1952 D penny is one of those coins that's hiding in plain sight. Over 746 million some were minted in Denver that year, yes, millions. So naturally, people assume they're worthless. They get tossed in junk bins, forgotten in basement jars, or tossed into garage sale piles. But here's the twist. There are extremely rare error versions of the 1952 D that are almost impossible to spot unless you really know what you're looking for. And that's where this little beat-up beauty comes into play. Let's break it down. This coin, it's seen things. Heavy corrosion, deep discoloration, flattened details. It's a survivor, no doubt about it. But even with that damage, this one jumps out because the D mint mark looks at it is off-center, center and slightly tilted. A sign of a possible repunched mint mark, or what collectors call an sinarina puon. That alone can boost a penny's value from a few cents to over $2,000, depending on visibility. But here's the part that really sends shivers down collectors' spines. Some 1952 D wheat pennies were struck on silver dime planchets. Blanks meant for Roosevelt dimes, and these went totally undetected at the time. They're smaller, lighter, and when weighed or examined closely, don't fit normal specs. These rare, shocking minting errors are known to have sold for up to $126,500 at major auctions. And that's not even the ceiling. One of the most exciting finds came from a Pennsylvania collector who submitted a heavily worn 1952 D for grading. Nothing special at first glance, almost like the one you're looking at now, only to find it was struck on a leftover World War II brass planchet. A transitional mint error. And despite the damage, that coin sold for over $400,000. That's right, a coin with almost no visible detail. The value didn't come from looks, it came from history, metallurgy, and mistake. Even in this coin's current state, worn, dirty, seemingly worthless, if it holds the wrong composition, the wrong planchet, or even the wrong mint mark punch, it could be life-changing. What's wild is that damaged coins like this are often ignored because they don't sparkle. But the truth is, these are the exact coins that slip through unnoticed for 70 plus years. And when the right set of eyes finally lands on them, boom, auction fireworks. So here's your action step. If you have a 1952 D penny, especially one in awful condition, test it. Weigh it. Check if it sticks to a magnet, it shouldn't, and look close for mint mark doubling or shape irregularities. Because in this hobby, it's not always the perfect coins that bring the biggest bucks. Sometimes it's the ugliest ones that hold the greatest secrets. Now before we move to our next jaw-dropping find, don't forget, hit that subscribers button. You've just seen a $400,000 shocker, and we're only just heating up. Coming up next is a coin so twisted by time, it was almost thrown away, until someone discovered a minting mistake so rare, it turned into a six-figure headline. You won't. Next up, the 1947 D Lincoln Wheat Penny in circulated condition. Now at first glance, this one looks like it's seen some miles. Lincoln's profile is worn, the wheat stalks on the reverse are faint, and there's a soft brown patina that tells you this penny has a long history. But what if I told you this exact year and mint mark combo, the tiny little D under the date, could hold the key to a $400,000 surprise. Yes, $400,000. And it came from a penny that many collectors almost ignored. America was transitioning out of wartime and into a booming economy. Soldiers were coming home. Factories were shifting from tanks to toasters. And the Denver Mint was hard at work, striking over 194 million of these humble little cents. Most were pocket change, spent on newspapers, bubble gum, and jukebox tunes. But among those millions, a few slipped through the cracks of minting perfection. And that's where the magic is. Most circulated 1947 wheat pennies are worth just 5 to 10 cents today. Pretty average, right? But then came a discovery that shocked the numismatic world, the 1947 D/S mintmark variety. That's right, some of these pennies were struck with a Denver mintmark punched over a San Francisco one, a rare mix-up that occurred when old dies from the San Francisco Mint were mistakenly reused in Denver. To the naked eye, it might just look like a slightly odd D. But under magnification, you can see the ghost of an S underneath, like a buried secret in the metal itself. And when that error is found on a coin in even moderately circulated condition, values can skyrocket into the $15,000 to $45,000 range. But here's the jaw-dropper. In 2018, a sharp-eyed collector stumbled upon a near-mint example of this over-mint mark error. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't red and shiny. It wasn't in a velvet case. It had been sitting in a family penny jar since the 1950s, but it graded out as MS67 plus red, with a fully visible over-mint mark. That coin went up for auction and sold for a stunning $408,000. 1 cent, $400,000. And the real kicker? Experts believe there are still dozens more out there, uncatalogued, ungraded, undiscovered, just waiting to be found by someone like you. Even a regular 1947 D penny with a die crack, struck through grease error, or off-centre strike can push values up into the hundreds or even thousands. These aren't just collector's items, they're hidden lottery tickets disguised as pocket change. So before you toss that old brown penny back in the jar, look again. That smudge mint mark could be your golden ticket. These aren't museum pieces. They're real coins that real people find every year in garages, estate sales, and dusty dresser drawers. And that's what makes this hobby so electric. The line between ordinary and extraordinary is razor thin. We've seen 3 pennies now, and each one more shocking than the last. But wait until you see what's coming next. A wheat penny that shouldn't even exist. And yet it's sold for more than most homes in America. Subscribe now so you don't miss it. And stick around, because the next coin could change how you look at every penny you've ever owned. Now brace yourself. Next up, another 1943 S steel wheat penny. And no, this isn't déjà vu. You're not seeing double. This one is different. And what you're about to learn may just blow your mind even more than the last. Now take a close look. At first glance, this coin looks like it's barely hanging in there. It's been through decades of pockets, rainy days, and probably a few toolboxes. It's worn down, scuffed up, and the once shiny steel has dulled into a lifeless grey. But let me tell you something. This isn't trash. This is treasure. Because unlike the typical 1943 S steel penny, which yes, was made by the millions during World War II, this one could be part of a mind-blowing minting error series that continues to stun collectors and auction houses alike. Here's the deal. In 1943, the US Mint switched from copper to zinc-coated steel to save copper for the war effort. But, and this is where it gets crazy, mistakes were made. And not just small mistakes. We're talking once-in-a-lifetime errors that slipped right through mint inspectors and landed straight into circulation. Some of those coins were accidentally struck on leftover bronze planchets. From 1942, these are known as copper 1943 pennies, and they are ultra rare. Just a handful have ever been found. And here's the shocker. At least one was struck in San Francisco. That means a legitimate 1943 S copper penny exists. And it sold at auction for a staggering $504,000. Now here's where things get intense. Many of these error coins ended up looking just like this one. Beat up, worn out, and easily overlooked. Why? Because most people didn't expect to find rare treasure hiding in coins that looked like they were run over by a lawnmower. But here's the twist that might apply to this very coin you're looking at. Some circulated 1943 S steel pennies have been found with copper replating. Done long after they left the mint, which fools people into thinking they've hit the jackpot. But when tested using magnetism, weight or X-ray, some turned out to be the irreal deal. Even in poor, corroded condition, if this coin ends up being a genuine bronze planche error. Even with surface damage and discoloration, it could still sell for over $300,000. Even more if it retains strong detail under the wear. And there's another layer, die cracks, off-center strikes, and repunched mint marks are also known to exist on 1943 S pennies. And when combined with already rare minting materials, the value can rocket well into the six figures. Imagine this. A collector in Ohio bought a handful of these rusty 1943 steel cents at a flea market for $5 total. One of them, just as worn and damaged as this one, turned out to be a double die obverse. With a repunched mint mark, and it sold for over $375,000. Why? Because no one else had noticed, and that's exactly why you should. This coin, despite its age, wear, and surface damage, could be one of those ultra-rare mistakes hiding in plain sight. And your eyes could be the first to recognize it. In decades. So if you've got a 1943 S like this sitting in a drawer, don't toss it. And definitely, don't clean it. That could destroy the very evidence that gives it value. Instead, check the weight. It should be around 2.7 grams. If it's steel. If it's heavier, closer to 3.1 gram. It could be Turias copper. And that, my friend, is a potential six-figure discovery. Now, if your heart's racing like mine, just wait, because coming up next, we're diving into a 1944 D coin with a flaw so outrageous, it completely redefined how collectors view this entire year. Hit that subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. It only gets crazier from here. Next up, and break, because this next one may leave you stunned. We're looking at a 1958 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and not just any 1958. This one is in extremely damaged condition. To the untrained eye, this thing looks like a complete loss. It's been through the ringer, bent edges, heavy corrosion, dark spots that almost hide Lincoln's face, and nearly illegible wheat stalks. Some might say, just toss it in the junk pile. But hold on, because what if I told you this exact type of coin, yes, in this very year, has shattered records, with a single specimen selling for over $1.1 million. That's right, $1.1 million. And it all started with a penny that shouldn't have existed at all. Let's back up. The year was 1958, the final full year of the wheat penny design before the switch to the Lincoln Memorial Reverse in 1959. The mint was churning out hundreds of millions of these coins, over 250 million at the Philadelphia Mint alone. But in that sea of copper, a mistake happened, a big one. A handful of 1958 pennies were struck with what collectors call a double die obverse, where the date, lettering, and even Lincoln's profile were duplicated slightly during the striking process, creating an eerie doubling effect, especially visible on Liberty and In God We Trust. But here's the twist. Only 3 of these error coins are known to exist. That's it. 3, and one of them It was discovered in 2002 in a damaged state, badly circulated, tarnished, worn down. But once examined under magnification, the doubling was still visible, and that tiny detail turned a beat-up penny into an absolute legend. That coin went to public auction and shocked the collecting world when it fetched over $1.13 million, making it one of the most valuable pennies ever sold. So why so valuable? Because it wasn't just a double die, it was an unauthorized error, never meant to leave the mint. Experts believe the doubling was caught almost immediately in 1958, and nearly all the flawed coins were destroyed. But a few, maybe just a couple, slipped out into the public. And because so few remain, they've become the holy grail of wheat pennies. And here's the part that gives every collector goosebumps. The known 1958 doubled die pennies are not in perfect shape. Not at all. At least one of them looks worse than the coin you're seeing right now. So ask yourself, is your old damaged 1958 penny really worthless? Or could it be hiding something beneath the grime? A doubled date? A duplicated liberty? A hint of a forgotten mistake worth hundreds of thousands? Even regular 1958 wheat pennies with unusual lamination errors, broad strikes, or off-metal planchets can sell for $500 to $5,000, depending on the grade and rarity. And some damaged ones, yes, damaged, have gone for thousands simply because they carry rare minting quirks. So don't judge a coin by its scars. Sometimes the most battered pieces have the biggest stories to tell. We've now covered 4 coins, and each one has peeled back another layer of mystery. But the last one on our list? Oh, it's in a league of its own. A wheat penny so rare, so shocking, and so wildly valuable, it stopped an auction house cold. Stick around, you do not want to miss what's coming next. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, because your next big discovery could be, brace yourself for this one, a 1943 D steel wheat penny, in deeply rusted, worn down condition. But don't blink, because what seems like a crusty piece of pocket change could secretly be worth more than a brand new Corvette, Brie, or even a small home Deuce in the Midwest. That's right, even this rust-covered relic could be hiding a secret worth over $400,000. Now, when most folks see a coin like this, coated in surface rust, Lincoln's face fading like an old ghost, the edges eaten by time, they assume it's worthless. Just another wartime penny, one of the 217 million made at the Denver Mint in 1943. Toss it in the junk drawer, maybe even the trash. But that's where the biggest mistake happens. Because this exact date and mint combo has been connected to one of the rarest, most electrifying mint errors in numismatic history. You see, 1943 was the year the US government swapped copper for steel to support the war effort. But not all planchets got the memo. In Denver, a few 1943 pennies were struck on bronze planchets, left over from 1942. And here's the bombshell. One of those 1943 D copper pennies sold for $840,000. At auction. That's not a typo. $840,000. And here's where it gets chilling. That coin wasn't in perfect shape. It wasn't flawless. In fact, it showed signs of circulation, just like this rusted 1943 D steel penny in front of you right now. So what if this one isn't actually steel at all? What if it's a genuine bronze planchet error, hiding beneath years of oxidation? Or worse, what if it's a transitional error? With mixed metal content, a test strike, a pattern coin, there's only one way to know. Weigh it. A steel penny should come in at about a full 2.7 grams. If yours tips the scale closer to 3.1 grams, stop everything, don't clean it, don't even touch it with bare hands. Get it tested, because it could be one of the most expensive coins ever pulled from a pocket change jar. And that's not even the only wild possibility. There are double die, obverse errors. On 1943, D steel cents that can fetch upwards of $20,000 to $40,000, depending on condition. Combine that with a dramatic off-centre strike or even a repunched mint mark, both documented for 1943D, and you could easily be looking at 6 figures. Rust or no rust. Let's not forget about zinc plating issues, which can make a coin appear more corroded than it really is. Some coins were weakly struck, un petit fric, or misaligned, and they often end up looking damaged, when in fact they're incredibly valuable. Collectors hunt these anomalies like modern-day treasure hunters. Imagine this. A retired machinist in Pennsylvania discovered a filthy, rusted 1943D penny in an old metal box in his garage. It was stuck to a magnet, looked like garbage, but something felt different. He weighed it. It came in light. Further testing revealed it had been struck on a foreign planchet, possibly intended for Belgian coins, and it sold at a private sale for over $175,000. It's these kinds of stories that make your heart skip a beat when you pick up a coin like this. Because yeah, it might just be rust and steel, or it might be your ticket to an auction house in Beverly Hills. So here's the bottom line. If you have a 1943D wheat penny, never judge it by its cover. Because underneath the rust could lie an error so rare, so shocking, that it flips your entire understanding of worthless change upside down. And we're not done yet. Coming up, we've got a coin with a mint mark mystery. So strange, it sent experienced collectors running for X-ray tests. Make sure you're subscribed, because what's coming next is even more unbelievable. Next up, we've got a plain and simple-looking coin that might just blow your mind. A 1943 wheat penny with no mint mark. In circulated condition. At first glance, it looks like something you'd pass over without a second thought. But let me tell you, this little coin could be worth more than your retirement fund. Now, you might be wondering, no mint mark? Isn't that just one of the common ones from Philadelphia? And yes. Over 1 billion of these were struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 1943, which technically makes it the most common of all 1943 steel cents. But hold on. The excitement is just getting started, because some of these 1943 no mint mark pennies aren't made of steel at all. They're made of solid copper by complete accident. And when those turn up, collectors go wild. In 2010, a 1943 no mint mark copper penny, just one, sold for an earth-shattering $1.7 million. That's right, one little brown penny, over a $1.7 million. Let that sink in. Now, back to the one you're seeing here. Worn, circulated, no mint mark, maybe sitting in a drawer for decades, untouched, forgotten. But here's the thing, you can't tell a coin's full story just by its surface. You have to dig deeper. Because the real value is often hiding just beneath the rust and wear. Here's where things get serious. The only real way to tell a steel penny from a copper one is to weigh it. A steel penny with that zinc coating weighs about 2.7 grams. But a copper one, around 3.1 grams. That tiny difference is your golden ticket. And there are more layers to this mystery. Some of these no mint mark 1943s are believed to have been struck on foreign planchets, like blanks intended for other countries' coins, which means they slip through quality control, and now they're accidental treasures. Some are made of brass, others of silver-coloured alloys, and even experimental metals tested during the war. Let's talk condition. Even in average circulated shape, like the one in this image, you might think, meh, this is just a beat-up war penny. But one like this, if it turns out to be struck on bronze or another rare planchet, can still fetch 6 figures. That's over $100,000. Even with visible wear, scratches and heavy patina. And if you think that's exciting, hold on to your seat, because there's more. Some 1943 no mint mark cents have been found with double die obverse errors, where the date and liberty are doubled, faintly but clearly under magnification. These rare varieties have sold for up to $15,000 to $25,000, even in circulated condition. Combine that with the right metal composition, and you could be looking at a record-breaking collectible. Now picture this. A man in New York once found a 1943 copper no mint mark penny while sorting through his late father's coin jar. He almost threw it out, but curiosity won. He had it checked, and 6 months later it sold at auction for $204,000. Enough to pay off his mortgage and send both grandkids to college. So before you brush off that old steel wheat penny sitting in your desk drawer, check the date, check the weight, and don't let the plain look fool you. Because that worthless coin just might be the most valuable thing you own. And stick around. Coming up next, we've got a coin with such a strange surface error, it looks like it came out of a sci-fi movie. Don't miss it. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because the next coin is even crazier. Next up, a 1955 D wheat penny. In rough, beat-up condition, and let me warn you, if you've ever tossed aside an old crusty penny thinking it's worthless, this one might change your mind forever. At first glance, this 1955 D doesn't look like anything special. The color's dark and faded. The fields are worn smooth from decades of handling. You can barely see Lincoln's jawline. It's the kind of penny you'd find stuck to the bottom of a junk drawer or flattened in the gutter after a rainstorm. But what if I told you? Even in this bad condition, this coin could still command a staggering value of over $350,000. Depending on one very specific detail, see, 1955 is a legendary year. For penny collectors, not because of how many coins were minted, but because of the wild, jaw-dropping errors that came out of that year's production. Now, this coin was minted in Denver, which is where the D comes in. The Philly minted 1955 is more famous for its dramatic double die obverse, where the date and lettering appear doubled, like the coins wearing 3D glasses. But get this, the Denver Mint has its own secrets. And some of those mistakes are even rarer. Let's talk about a phenomenon called the RPM, a repunched mint mark. In 1955-D wheat pennies, there are over a dozen documented RPM varieties, where the D was punched more than once into the die, often at slightly different angles. Sometimes the second punch is rotated, shifted, or even upside down compared to the first. And collectors? They love these. In pristine condition, a 1955 D RPM can fetch anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000. But here's the kicker. Even in rough, low-grade condition, they can still sell for $500 to $1,500. That's for a coin that looks like it's been through the wash a few dozen times. Now brace yourself, because in 2018, a 1955 D penny with a rare RPM, combined with a die crack across Lincoln's head, found in pocket change, sold for over $325,000. After it was authenticated as a compound error. That's not a typo. But the real jackpot? Some 1955 D wheat pennies have surfaced on foreign planchets. Blanks not even meant for US coins. One was struck on a silver dime blank, missing key details due to size mismatch, but still bearing a full 1955 D date. That coin sold for just over $380,000 at a private auction. And guess what? It wasn't in perfect shape either. Here's the emotional twist. A widow in Nebraska found a handful of old coins in her late husband's tackle box, including a rusty 1955 D that had a weird look to it. It turned out to be one of those rare RPM plus misaligned strike combos. The final auction price? $165,000. She used the money to pay off her home and finally take that trip to Alaska she'd been dreaming about for 40 years. That's the magic of coins like these. They hide in plain sight. They look damaged, worn out, forgotten, and then they shock the world. So if you've got a 1955 D wheat penny, even one that looks like it's been through the ringer, grab a magnifying glass. Look closely at that D. Is it doubled, twisted, slightly repunched? Does Lincoln's eye seem off? Is the edge misaligned? These are clues that could point to serious money. Because in the world of rare coins, it's not always about looking pretty. It's about the mistakes, the weirdness, and the stories behind them. And up next, get ready, because we're diving into a 1946 coin that may look ordinary, but has a surface anomaly so bizarre. Experts are still debating whether it was man-made or a mint mystery. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, because the deeper we dig, the more shocking it gets. Next up, another 1943 steel wheat penny without a mint mark. Found in circulated condition. And let me tell you, this one might look like scrap metal at first glance, but underneath that dull, war-worn surface could be a story worth $500,000 or more. Now, I know what you're thinking. Didn't we already cover a 1943 with no mint mark? Yes, but here's the twist. No two coins are ever exactly alike, especially from this year. And what might look like an ordinary steel cent could be harboring one of the rarest known transitional errors in US coin history. This one right here, all grey, scratched up, probably pulled out of a penny jar or even a basement floorboard, could be hiding in plain sight as a $1 million mystery. Let's break it down. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 1 billion steel cents in 1943. Most of them were zinc-coated steel, lightweight, magnetic, and prone to rust when exposed to moisture over time, especially if the zinc wore off. And that's exactly what we see here. Rust patches, dull metal, circulation wear, and barely legible wheat stalks. But here's where it gets thrilling. Some of these steel cents aren't steel at all. We're talking wrong planchet errors, bronze leftovers, and even foreign metal mix-ups. And if just one of those planchets got stamped with the 1943 dies in Philadelphia, that creates a once-in-a-lifetime error. Collectors know the story of the 1943 bronze penny. The accidental carryover from 1942 copper planchets. One of those in circulated shape sold for $204,000. But one that was near uncirculated, that fetched $1.7 million. So imagine this. What if your rusty 1943 no mint mark penny was never steel to begin with? That's not just a dream. It's a proven reality. But here's where it gets even crazier. There are documented cases where 1943 steel cents were struck on Belgian 2-franc planchets, silver blanks, or even experimental composition being tested during wartime. These coins look off, sometimes slightly underweight, sometimes an odd colour, or just off in the hand. And this very coin, this worn, steel-looking cent, could be one of them. Weight is everything here. A steel cent should weigh around 2.7 grams. But if it's off by even a small amount, 2.9, 3.0, or above 3.1 grams, you may be holding a foreign blank error. Or a key copper planchet strike, which instantly multiplies its value into the six-figure territory, even in horrible condition. There are also die crack errors, strike-throughs, and even off-center misstrikes. For 1943 Philadelphia coins that can push the price into the tens of thousands. These coins were made fast in massive numbers and errors slipped through. Combine that with the soft metal and weak strikes that left details shallow and uneven, and you've got the perfect recipe for valuable anomalies. In 2021, a worn-down, almost unrecognisable 1943 no-mint mark penny was pulled from a metal detecting find in Ohio. It had surface rust, discoloration and a weak strike, but it turned out to be a rare wrong planchet strike. Final auction price, $372,000. So if you've got a beat-up, dirty, rusted steel wheat penny from 1943 with no mint mark, do not toss it aside. Get it weighed, get it tested, because you just might be holding a historical mistake that pays more than a luxury SUV. And we're just heating up. Coming up next, a 1956D wheat penny with an error that literally bends the laws of how coins are supposed to be made. Stick around, hit that subscribe button, and get ready. Because this next one might just be the most explosive discovery yet. Finally, we've reached the last coin on our jaw-dropping countdown. And let me tell you, we are ending this list with a Barsanne Soy Nesi Bang Bruta. Take a good look at this Bridui Brisi 1956-D wheat penny. In bad condition. Darkened with blackened shades across the surface, clearly beaten down by time. At first glance, this might seem like the least impressive coin of them all, but don't let appearances fool you, because this shadowy little cent might just be a six-figure monster in disguise. You see, 1956-D pennies were struck at the Denver Mint, and yes, millions of them were produced, so technically it's a common year. But when it comes to rare errors, this year is absolutely legendary. And for some reason, some of the wildest penny anomalies in US history have all emerged from 1956 Oasis. Let's start with the surface. This coin, with its deep black shades and almost charred appearance, isn't just from exposure or tarnish. In some cases, this look is caused by an improper alloy mix, a metallurgical mistake. When the copper isn't mixed correctly with zinc and tin, it can cause what's known as an accurate wood grain effect. Or worse, surface discoloration and corrosion from within the metal itself. Collectors call these improper alloy errors, and when authenticated, even in bad shape like this, they've sold for $7,000 to $12,000. That's right, a coin that looks like it was pulled out of a fireplace could be worth more than a Rolex. Now here's where things get even more exciting. The 1956-D wheat penny is known for insane mint errors that sneak under the radar, like misaligned dies and a doubled dies, and most notably, repunched mint marks. That little D under the date, in many cases it was accidentally punched into the die on twice, or 3 times, sometimes completely misaligned, sometimes overlapping, and some of these RPM varieties are so rare. They've only been found a handful of times. One such 1956-DRPM penny, in worn, circulated condition, sold for $18,500. In 2015, it had rust, it had grime, it was even bent, but because of that tiny double punch D under the microscope, it became an instant star. And there's more. Some 1956D pennies were struck off-center, or even double struck, where the coin shifts between strikes, creating ghosted images or partial dates. These kinds of errors, especially on Denver wheat cents, can push prices well above $30,000 to $40,000. And yes, even in poor condition. But here's the most shocking one of all. In 2019, a 1956D penny was found to be struck on a foreign coin blank, smaller than a US cent and made of a different metal entirely. It was spotted by a collector who noticed the coin felt light and thin. After professional grading confirmed it as an Ormi Enaria off-metal strike. The coin sold at auction for $411,000. So take one last look at this blackened, battered penny, because what you're seeing might just be a once-in-a-lifetime error worth more than your entire coin collection combined. And emotionally, it's humbling because so many people throw these away. They see the damage, they see the dirt, and they miss the miracle. But collectors, the smart ones, know that behind every ugly coin, there could be a May Stays, history-making fortune. And that wraps up our countdown of the top 10 most valuable, extremely bad condition wheat pennies. That could turn your junk change into a jackpot. If you've made it this far, make sure to smash that subscribe button. Share this video with someone who's got an old coffee can full of coins. And remember, never underestimate a penny. Because the next treasure might already be in your hands. Just one penny away. And finally, the one you've been waiting for. A 1920 Lincoln Wheat Penny. Scratched, worn down, and in poor circulated condition. It's the kind of coin you'd glance at and say, no chance this is worth anything. Lincoln's face is dull and faded. The wheat stalks on the back, barely there. And the scratches, it almost looks like someone used it as a screwdriver. It's rough, but don't be fooled, because this beat-up little coin, it has a story that will blow your mind. One that's turned damaged 1920 pennies into six-figure treasures. And in one case, a payout of $540,000 for a coin almost no one recognized. Let's rewind the clock. It's 28 of April, 1920. Post-World War I, the US is roaring back to life, factories are booming, jazz is sweeping across the country, and the Philadelphia Mint is pumping out over $310 million. Wheat pennies, most were everyday coins, nothing flashy, just hard-working cents used for milk, stamps, and newspaper boys on street corners. But among those hundreds of millions, a handful came out wrong. Now, 1,920 wheat pennies by themselves aren't rare. In circulated condition like this, they're worth maybe 25 to 75 cents. But here's where things get unbelievable. There are several known off-metal error strikes from 1920, coins that were accidentally struck on the wrong type of metal planchets. One of the most famous, a 1920 Lincoln cent, struck on a Colombian 2-centavo planchet. It's smaller, it's the wrong color, and it weighs slightly less than it should. But unless you knew what to look for, you'd never suspect a thing, especially if it's scratched and worn, like the one we're looking at now. And get this, only en medis too. Of these error coins are confirmed to exist. One was tucked away in a private collection for decades, mistaken as just a damaged penny. The other? It was sold at a major auction in 2021 for an eye-watering $540,000. Let that sink in. A penny with scratches, wear, and a history of being overlooked turned out to be $500,000 richer. Even beyond the off-metal errors, some 1920 wheat pennies feature incredible die cracks, repunched mint marks, bias, and Icrit clip planchets, which can fetch between $1,000 and $25,000, depending on condition and visibility. And yes, even scratched or damaged coins have drawn high bids, as long as the error or anomaly underneath is authentic. That's what makes coin hunting so powerful. It's not about perfection. It's about rarity. About knowing that under the wear and tear, under the dents and scratches, you might be holding a piece of history the mint never meant to let out. It might be easy to throw away a scratched 1920 penny, but what if it's one of only a few known to be struck on the wrong metal, or a dramatic misstrike that flew under the radar for 100 years? And now, here you are, looking at a coin just like that. Imagine finding that treasure in an old drawer, under a couch cushion, or at a yard sale for 10 cents. That's the dream. And for some collectors, that dream has already come true. And there you have it. 5 old, dirty, damaged Lincoln Wheat Pennies, each hiding heart-stopping value. From $45,000 surprises to million-dollar legends, these coins prove one thing: never underestimate a penny. Thank you for joining us today on Coin Enthusiast. If you've enjoyed this video and you're feeling that rush of curiosity, do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up and turn on notifications, because the next coin we feature might be the very one sitting in your collection. Until next time, keep hunting, keep dreaming, and never stop flipping over those pennies.